Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Q&A leading up to the second half of The Walking Dead Season 6. First question for this one, we're going to give my thoughts on, is a recent interview with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who of course is going to play Negan, who should appear in the season finale of Season 6, where he basically talks about his mom being devastated that he's going to be in The Walking Dead. So I'll put the link in the description for this one so you guys can go ahead and check it out. It's pretty funny. It can kind of give you a sense of who Jeffrey Dean Morgan is off camera, because I personally didn't know much about him, but I'm, of course, starting to get to know a lot more about him now that he, of course, has been cast in The Walking Dead in such a huge role. Yeah, big fan of him as the comedian in Watchmen, so that was a lot of fun. And I don't watch The Good Wife, but I guess his mom is upset. You can watch the interview yourself. His mom's upset because she probably liked The Good Wife a lot, I'm guessing. And I would think if you're going to be cast as Negan in The Walking Dead, you're probably going to have to give that up if it's another TV show. Movies and stuff, they can usually work in, but TV shows, unless it's filmed at like a different time of the year entirely, it would be really, really hard for him to be on two TV shows at once, especially if he's got a big role in The Good Wife. I don't know what his role is in it, but yeah, he's probably going to have to give that up. I wonder if his mom would actually watch Walking Dead. I doubt it. I doubt it, especially because of the role that he's going to be playing. It's kind of like David Morrissey playing the governor. Even worse, actually, probably, because Negan's just so crazy and enjoys killing people and doing stuff like that. He's just so nuts, and his lines are so derogatory and everything. He's going to be pissed. So that's funny. So check that out if you guys want. There's some cool info about him. I guess he owns a farm. I didn't know that, so that's kind of cool. You got a farm? You got a farm? So I guess he's got a farm, so that's funny. And he's got some different, cows and cattle and stuff like that. So that's funny. So check out the interview if you want. Really happy to see him, of course, playing Negan. Definitely not disappointed in the cast. And, it's going to work out to be really good, it sounds like. Because he's just even naturally when he's even talking, he's got a really dark, or not dark, but he's got a really like deep, ominous type voice. So I think he personally is better suited to play, probably. I mean, he's a great actor, so he can do, whatever, but I think he's probably best suited to play, villain type characters. If you remember Comedian and Watchmen and that, yeah, it's like he makes sense. But he's, that character was like an anti-hero anyway. Negan's like straight up, full big bad guy, so it's perfect for him. I think it's perfect cast for the role. So check it out, guys. Let me know what you think. And we'll get into a few of your guys' Q&A questions. So the first one for this one is from Tony Fred 1988, and he says, "Hey Trevor, a question for the Q&A. Do you think Gareth and his group would have died from eating Bob when he was bitten if Rick didn't kill Gareth first back in Season 3? I have sent so many questions and you haven't answered a single one, Trev. So sorry, Tony. And also too, like I try to grab from as many people as I can. It's just that sometimes I get a lot. Right now I haven't actually been getting that many. So if you want to get a question through, now's a good time to ask. But a lot of times what I get is when The Walking Dead is actually on, I get like bombarded with questions, and then when it's not on, I don't get hardly any. So better time to ask now. So thanks, Tony, for keeping up and asking the question. It's a good question. So do I think that them eating Bob? No, I don't think so, because I think what it is, everybody's already infected with something, and when they die, they turn, right? So if they get bitten, the fever, the infection, I guess it burns them out, and as Morgan said, and then when they die, they turn. So with regards to them eating part of Bob who was bitten, does it have that infection, like how it would burn him up? Would it have that infection in him, and then would it transfer through the food to them after they've cooked it? I don't think so. I wouldn't say so. I mean, you can't say for sure one way or another, and I don't think if you said it would, that would be bad either. But they certainly would think that it would have, right? Of course, but of course only Robert Kirkman, who wrote the story originally, would be able to answer that question for sure. And I haven't seen that question answered in any of the letter hacks, so I'm not sure. But my opinion would be, I don't think that they would have just died straight up. All of them would have been sick and died because of that. I think they just kind of like freaked out like crazy when he did it, and his response was so crazy, and that that he was bitten and everything, that they just because of course they don't know, right? And they would have thought maybe that something could, because they don't know anything about it, but they just about the infection and everything like that. But I don't think it would have actually totally killed them all. No, I don't think so. Especially if you're going to cook it first, right? So I don't think so. I mean, you get a stomach ache. Maybe that's about it. Probably maximum. I don't think it would burn him out and kill him, though, no. Next one's from Blake Bauman, and he says, the Q&A. Why isn't Daryl as much of a smartass anymore like he was in seasons 1 and 2? I like that Daryl a lot more than the one we have now. Keep up the great work. Okay, so here's my take on it and why I think he kind of changed. Because you are right, in the first season he was pretty rowdy. He was a smartass. He was kind of wild. He was kind of crazy. Yeah, he was just a lot of that. He's a lot more reserved now. He's a lot more kind of quiet, more of a thinker now than he was then. Yeah, still tough as nails. So I think the death of Merle and all the things he's seen, all the things that have happened over the seasons, I think have really humbled him a lot, to the point where he's not, after you see some of those types of things, you can't really be like a smartass anymore. You can't really feel like a smartass or feel like you're just, you got it all figured out, because, people are just dying. It's just the way it is, and he's been through a lot. You even have the part in season 5 where he doesn't he like burn himself with a cigarette? So masochism. He masochistically burns himself after the death in the second half, and Tyrese as well too. He burns himself, right? So to kind of, so his super ego becomes sadistic and turns on his ego or his id, and actually hurts himself to relieve the grief, or to relieve the feelings of guilt that he has built up within him. So that's what happens when someone hurts themselves. That's the psychology behind why they do that. Because it's actually, well, I wouldn't say it's common, but masochism is fairly common. So I would say he's probably just, all the things he's been through has changed him to the point where he can't be as rowdy and happy and as he used to be, because everybody he knew before, even his brother now, dead, everybody else he probably knew before dead, and these people he has with him, he wants to protect them, wants to do a good job, but I think he's just changed a lot from then. And I feel like it's been a pretty natural, progressive change, because sometimes he does still, he joked around in season 3 when there was the tower, and Glenn and Maggie were in the tower, and he asked Glenn if he was, that's funny. But I can't think of many jokes past that. It was like his last joke that he made, I think, or in season 3 maybe. But then at the end, Merle died, and, I think that's where the transformation came from. So I think it's been a natural, that he's changed like that. But I think Norman Reedus does an amazing job of playing Daryl. I think even though some people don't think his acting is too good, I love the memes where you see his face when he's crying when Merle is killed. So that's pretty funny. Those are funny to see online. Next one's from Jeff Bryant, and he says, Q&A, I want to hear your thoughts on what Eugene's role will be after No Way Out. So Eugene is a thinker, right? Even in the comic book series right now, the issue that was just released the other day, 151, he's a thinker. He's always thinking, he's always formulating, he's always designing and creating, and, he's definitely not tough in terms of like a fighter, but he's a thinker. And was it Henry Ford who said that thinking is the hardest work there is? That's why so few people do it. Something like that. The quote goes something like that. It's such hard work to think like that. That's why almost nobody does. People just walk around aimlessly in life like zombies. Some of them. So it depends. They just do whatever sounds good. They don't really like sit there and actually figure things out and think things out. He's a thinker, man. So he is so useful to Rick, because in the comic book series now we see Rick starting to become a thinker himself too, right? Because his body's thrashed, in the comic book series. It's in better shape in the TV series, but in the comic book series, like his hand is messed up, or it's really messed up. It's not even there. He's missing a hand. His leg's messed up. He can't really move. He's not mobile. He can't really fight too well. I mean, he can. He's tough, but his body's just not healthy anymore. So even if he's got the spirit, he's got these disadvantages with his health. So he's got to become more of a thinker. So Eugene's basically the same way. He can't really use his body. He's not a fighter. He's a thinker, and he's going to be a designer, and he's going to be very useful to Alexandria. And we'll do a couple more. This one's from Hypernova 2K 2.0, and he says, Hey Trev, what was worse, Season 2's first half or Season 3's second half? Ooh, so that's a good question. Which was worse? I would have to say Season 2's first half. But it has some good episodes. Like the premiere is great. Save the Last One is great. But then you have a few episodes there which are pretty weak. I mean, almost no zombies, almost no action, just sitting on the farm, that kind of deal. So I think that the part of Season 2, and that's mainly what I think got Frank Darabont fired, was because he just wasn't happy with the quality, and, him and the bigwigs started fighting and stuff because of costs and things like that. So I would have to say season 2, even though season 3's second half definitely has some issues. The writing had some trouble at that time, and they had trouble keeping up, and they had to kind of put in a few things there to kind of wrap it up, and it was kind of messy. And I think that's what cost Glenn Mazzara his position, or he decided to leave after that. And we'll do like 2 more actually here. Next one's from Bart Shoemaker, and he says, "Hey Trev, if The Walking Dead ends up going past 300 issues, which at this point I do see happening, what stories story arcs do you see happening? For example, new bad guys, places, etc. Right now I see the Whisper storyline lasting at least till issue 200. After that, what do you see happening? What do you want to happen?" Well, thanks Bart. So we just got that new reveal that there's possibly a new group out there somewhere that maybe Eugene has accidentally, or not accidentally, but is contacted by radio. And so maybe that could come into play, but I'd really like to see like a civil war breakout of some kind. And it looks like we might see that because you have different groups that are not necessarily together, and you may have different leaders that rise up like out of the Saviors that could become very troublesome for Rick and the others. So fighting amongst the groups, maybe some characters try to take over. We've seen a kind of a small idea of Betrayed, but to see something bigger like a coup where maybe Rick actually does get killed off eventually, issue 300 or something, where people actually do, the group gets taken over by stronger maybe a character or a tyrant or something like Negan that I haven't seen Kirkman set up yet. I can't think of who would do it right now. Maybe Magna in the future, somebody like that. One of these other little characters that you wouldn't think much of, and kind of build up to that. But some kind of civil war, some kind of fighting in and amongst the bigger group after the Whispers are done is, if I was writing it, that's what I would do. I would do something like that. I think that could be really good. It worked great with Shane, and we could see it on a bigger scale because there's so many characters now. And we'll do the last one here. This one's from Void Walkers. He says, "Hey Trev, Q&A question. As we can see in The Walking Dead from season 1 to 6, we know that all the walkers rot. So do you think that in the future seasons the walkers will deteriorate so much that they will no longer be a threat because they're so worn down? Thanks, and keep up the great work, Void Walkers." So no, I don't. You got to have a show too, right? You got to have a comic too, right? So if the walkers just eventually it would make sense, right? That they would just disintegrate over time without having any food for such a long period of time. And they would just disintegrate and die basically in the sun and then the elements outside. And yeah, after a couple of years, they would. Their bodies would be like some of the walkers we've seen, grown into trees and stuff, just totally disintegrating, right? Nothing to them, like powder or something, like just no skeletal tissue anymore without food. But because the time doesn't pass that fast, they can make 10 or 15 seasons out of like maybe 4 or 5 years. So, and you do have new zombies coming out too, as more of the surviving groups maybe are killed off or overrun. You can have bigger groups come together, this type of thing. For sake of the story, they try to be realistic 100%, but for sake of the story, you wouldn't want the walkers to all just die off, because then you wouldn't have Walking Dead anymore, really, right? With no zombies around. That's kind of like you kind of need it. So for sake of the story, you have to have them there. Even though you're right, logically, scientifically, it would make sense that without new nutrition, without new food, in the heat, they're definitely gonna systematically break down, right? Makes sense. Anyway, but for sake of the story, they would never do that, right? Probably never. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about all these different questions and about Jeffrey Dean Morgan's interview. Thought it was pretty fun. And write your comments below if you liked this video for today. You guys, you can thumb it up below. You can share a favorite. And if you're new and you want to sub, you can sub at the bottom left. That's it for today's. I may see you guys again tomorrow. So I was just Trev, and I'm saying peace.